What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Mariah from MariahMagazine.com. And in this video, I am going to be talking about Google Analytics 4, aka GA4. So, if you haven't yet gotten the news, Google has decided to sunset, aka retire, the old version of Google Analytics, also known as Universal Analytics, and they are fully transitioning into Google Analytics 4, okay? I am very sad about this. The old Google Analytics dashboard that we all know and love is going to stop tracking data as of July 1st, 2023, okay? So I know I'm sad about it too, but since they decided to move forward with this, it's kind of like, okay, I suppose that we all have to start tracking data in Google Analytics 4 in the new version of it. So that is why I created this video. I do want to say right from the jump that this tutorial is for super simple, basic setups of Google Analytics. I'm not diving into like Google Tag Manager. I'm not diving into like moving over your goals or conversions or like anything like that. This is super simple just so that you can start tracking data on your website, because apparently they're going to eventually get rid of the old Universal Analytics dashboard completely. And listen, y'all, don't freak out, but apparently we're not going to have access to that old data. Okay, that's what I read. Google suggests that you export your old data. How you do that? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. To be honest, I am not a Google Analytics expert. Okay, I just like dive in and try to figure these things out because I have to do it for myself, and then I create videos to help you guys kind of do it too. So how to export your data, how to move over your complex setups. I don't have the answers to those questions. I do have the answer to the question of how do we start tracking data in Google Analytics 4? So since we are going to basically eventually lose access to our old data, it's smart to start tracking data in Google Analytics 4 so that by the time July 1st of 2023 comes along, we have like, at this point, almost or at least like a full year of data to look back on. That's why I suggest doing it sooner than later. And just to be clear, before we hop into the tutorial, this tutorial is for my humans that already have been using Google Analytics for a bit, okay? If you're brand new to Google Analytics, I have a different tutorial linked below in the description. But this one is for my humans that are just like, yo, I'm using Universal Analytics. I need to start tracking in Google Analytics 4, okay? I also created this because I was just talking with people in my industry and it felt like nobody really knew the answer. So honestly, this is like, this has taken me so long to figure out an answer that actually makes sense and works. Okay, so I've done a lot of testing, a lot of tweaking behind the scenes. Is there another way to do it? Yes, like with Google Tag Manager. I don't have Google Tag Manager set up on my website, so this tutorial is not going into that route. It's more manual, like adding your manual code. And then in terms of the Google Analytics 4 dashboard itself, I know, it's like super overwhelming and it's like complex to even look at. Honestly, I'm hoping that they like further develop it before we all have to move over there, because it's like, it's annoying. The old Universal Analytics, like the reports were created for us and everything. This new version feels like we're going to have to create them ourselves. It also feels like it's like half developed, and it feels like it's missing some really big key components. So honestly, that's why I'm tracking both, because I still prefer to look at data in Universal Analytics. So I didn't want to just jump right into GA4 and stop tracking UA altogether. Okay, so that's what I go through in this tutorial, is how we can track both simultaneously. So without further ado, let's just get into it. All right. So basically the first thing that you are going to want to do is obviously log in to Google Analytics. Okay. So make sure that you are on the right account, the right property. Yeah. If you only have one account, one property, then like you're probably on the right one. If you have quite a few like I do, just double check that you are on the correct one. Okay. So head over here to admin, and then we're going to see GA4 setup assistant. So you're going to see this cute little button here for I want to create a new Google Analytics 4 property. So go ahead and click get started. So it breaks down basically what this wizard is going to do. To be completely honest, like I said, this tutorial is for like super basic setup. This is just for my humans that like want to track the data on their website. To be honest, I don't really know how to move everything over. I don't know if there is a way right now to like move over your goal tracking or different things like that. So you're going to have to find a new tutorial for this. I'm not going to go into that. This is just going to be a super simple setup for starting to collect data in Google Analytics 4. Okay. So in this example, we can see that I'm allowed to check this box. Some of you might have a notification that's like, hey, your Google Analytics tracking software or like your tracking code is outdated. You cannot check this box. Okay, so you guys might have one out of two options. This tutorial will be good for you regardless if you check this box or not. Okay, and I'll explain the reason why as we're kind of going through it. Okay, so we're just going to click create property. So it's going to go ahead and create the new Google Analytics 4 property. So we're going to click this little blue button to see the Google Analytics 4 property. Okay, so we're going to click this under tagging installation. Go ahead and click that right arrow. Make sure that the URL that you want to track on is the correct one here. And then go ahead and open this. Okay, so if you got that little notice where you couldn't check that box in the previous thing, the thing that you have to do is install this new tracking code into the header of your website because your old tracking code for Google Analytics is too outdated. Okay. So in theory, I have been testing this for a while, and some things tend to work for some websites and some things tend to not work for other websites, like depending on the platform. Okay, so I'm going to talk about WordPress and I'm going to talk about Squarespace here. You might have to test and tweak some things depending on what website platform you're on. Okay, so in theory, we should be able to go down here in our GA4 and click manage connected site tags. Yours should say 0. So you would open this up. We would pop back over to our universal analytics. We would click on tracking info, click tracking code. We would copy this tracking ID, bring it back over here, enter the ID of the tag here, give it a little name, okay? That is basically what this is. You would hit connect, your screen would end up like mine. So in theory, if this worked correctly, we would be able to, regardless of the website platform, we would be able to copy this code, go into either a code injection on Squarespace, go into our site settings like a header injection, wherever, whatever platform, however you want to get this site tag into the heading of your website. We would be able to copy this code, and then that would be the only code that we needed. Like we wouldn't actually need our universal analytics code anymore because in theory, we already connected this code to our universal analytics. Okay, that is how it should work in theory. I have tested this on Squarespace and on WordPress. Okay, so stick with me here. On WordPress, I tried that. Okay, I went and I copied this specific tracking code for Google Analytics 4. So I hopped over to my website. I use a plugin like Header Footer Code Manager. I created a site-wide HTML snippet. We put it in the header and I put it in here, okay? So I actually, when I was testing this, I got rid of this universal analytics code because I'm like, oh, I've already connected this code to this tag. So this tag should be able to give me data in both my Google Analytics and my universal analytics, because it's important to me to continue to track universal analytics until I no longer can any longer. Okay, so I tried that. So what I did, I deleted this code, got rid of it, updated it, purged the SiteGround cache. But when I went back to my universal analytics and I sent test traffic without having this extra code here, it wasn't tracking any data. So this connection that it wants you to make wasn't actually working. And maybe I'm getting something wrong, okay? I'm just running you guys through like kind of what I've had to figure out. But it's interesting because when I do this and I copy the Google Analytics 4 code and I go over to Squarespace and I go to settings and I go to advanced and we do a code injection and I paste the GA4 injection into this header area here with the connected site tag, just like I tried out for WordPress, it works for Squarespace, okay? So like I actually have here, let me see. This is just the client's website. And so I can go right now in a different tab, view their website, and it will come up. Yep, that's me right here coming up. It'll come up as an active user. So this tells me that Universal Analytics is tracking. So then I'm like, okay, let's just double check that GA4 is tracking. So then we come over here. Yep, it's tracking over here too. Although Google Analytics 4, no data received from your website yet. If you get this right after you set this up, do not freak out. It took like, I think it took like 48 hours, maybe even a week for this to disappear on my website. Okay, so I've been testing this for a little bit, but I just set this one up yesterday or this morning or something. So this works for Squarespace if you're using the code injection, okay? But always double check because Google Analytics has been funky chicken with this stuff, okay? But a lot of you guys know about the other way to add Google Analytics tracking codes to Squarespace, and that's with external APIs. So here, you don't have to paste this entire code. With Squarespace, they've actually updated it to where you can go and you can copy this measurement ID and you can paste it right in here. Okay, so this will track, where are we? This will track GA4, and then we can add a comma and a space and paste our Universal Analytics tracking code. Paste that one in as well. So it gives you the example right here and click save. And I've double checked that, and that also works for Squarespace, okay? You do not have to do both. If you're doing it this way, you do not have to do it with the code injection. If you're doing it with the code injection, you do not have to do it this way, okay? But for my people over on WordPress, since I tested this Google Analytics GA4 tracking code with the Universal Analytics as a connected code and it doesn't work, I went back in and repasted my Universal Analytics tracking code. So now I actually have both codes firing in the header of my website. So regardless of what option you want to play with, if you want to go ahead and play with both, see what works, especially if you're on a different platform. Okay, I have a feeling that this is because of like the back end code of the platform itself. So what I would suggest is regardless of the option that you are going to do, you need to test this, okay? So we want to make sure that my Google Analytics 4 that I pasted right here is working in WordPress. So we want to hop over here, make sure that we're on GA4, and we can go to reports, we can go to real time, and we should be able to see, let's see here. Yep, there we go. This is me right here in Buffalo. So we can see that that code is tracking on the website, but I love Universal Analytics. I don't want to stop tracking that until probably like the very last minute. So in our tracking code, we want to click this button and send test traffic. Okay, so it's going to pop up. I know you guys probably can't see it, but it's going to pop up your website. And so if it's testing correctly for Universal Analytics, you'll be able to see it right here. Okay, so just to clarify, when I took out this Universal Analytics tracking code out of my header and only tried to track with GA4 and have it track UA under a connected tag, I went and I double checked it in here, sent test traffic, it didn't work, okay? But when I do that for Squarespace with the code injection, it works, okay? So this is two different ways that you can do it. To be honest, like this way of having both codes, I'm not super excited about it. It can slow down the site, not by a lot, but it is adding extra code. So this is why a lot of people suggest using Google Tag Manager, because you're only going to put in like one code for Google Tag Manager, and then Google Tag Manager will send the data to both Universal Analytics and GA4. I didn't want to go through the trouble of setting up Google Tag Manager. So this is kind of just what I'm doing for the meantime. The only thing that kind of like, I don't want to say freaks me out, but that I'm kind of aware of is like, I just don't want it to double track data. Okay. But I will say, if you're also worried about that, I feel like if that was an issue, then Squarespace wouldn't have allowed us to add both options, because then it would be tracking double data here. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Okay. And then I also did some Googling and I saw somebody say that like and I think it was in a Google support forum, that you actually can't get double data, double tracking if you do it this way. Okay. So is this the easiest, best tutorial to follow? No, to be honest, I feel like we're all kind of testing and tweaking here. But like I said in the intro, I wanted to create a tutorial so that you guys can start tracking in Google Analytics 4. So you can start getting a hang of this dashboard, because y'all, it's going to be a learning curve. And the fact that like we're going to lose our data in Universal Analytics, like I would like to start collecting data as long as possible in GA4. So I'm sure moving down the line, they're going to like, everybody will catch up in terms of these connected tags, and I'm sure that they will work like they are intended to. But as of right now, it's going to be a testing and tweaking process. Okay. So I would just suggest making sure that you open, like whichever way you go, open up your website in a new tab, check the data, check the real-time reports for both Universal Analytics and for Google Analytics. That is going to be like your saving grace here. Or you can absolutely go ahead and set up Google Tag Manager. I don't have a tutorial out for that just yet. Maybe I will end up doing it in the future, but for now, I kind of just wanted to get this one out there. Moving forward, honestly, if you guys want more information about GA4, about like setting up goals and conversions and things like that, like I don't have the answers on how to do all of that. I'm not even that comfortable in the GA4 dashboard yet, but I wanted to create this video so that you guys could at least start tracking your data in GA4, okay? Because it's going to be super important. But if you want to stay updated on more advanced things, how to use GA4, how to set up certain reports and things like that, A, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and B, definitely sign up for my email newsletter list, because I just teamed up with a colleague and she is like super stoked to dive in to Google Analytics 4, and she's going to be creating a workshop and like helping people really understand and utilize it. And that's something that I don't want to dive into, but I want to keep my email newsletter and all y'all updated if you're interested in it. Okay. So I'm going to be keeping my newsletter updated on it. So if you're not on the newsletter yet, click in the description box below, make sure that you're signed up for that, so I can let you know when all of the good GA4 information is coming out, so you don't have to be overwhelmed anymore. And hopefully I won't have to be overwhelmed anymore either. Okay, if you found this tutorial helpful, make sure that you give it a really quick thumbs up for me. Feel free to share it with your clients. Feel free to share it with other people that have websites so that they can continue to track data after Universal Analytics gets the boot. Okay? So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. If you guys have any questions about anything, definitely leave a comment below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.